Hello and welcome to the Floodlight Podcast, the podcast where the Flood Church Mzuzu podcast. Wow, my words. But it's the Flood Church Mzuzu podcast where we talk about the Sunday sermon, but also have conversations about how our faith works in real life. And we are 7 days away from Christmas.
Woo! Yeah.
We're so happy about that. Happy about the Christmas holiday. I hope you are too. But that also means we're getting closer to the end of the Advent series. And so this past week, we've been looking at the topic of joy. I was actually starting to blank out, but we're focusing on the theme of joy within the Advent. And again, if you're unfamiliar with what Advent means, it's just basically the waiting time where we reflect on the birth of Jesus, but also think about how we're waiting for his second coming. And so this week, like I said, we're focusing on the theme of joy. I'm your host, Pastor Theo, and today I've got the hostess with the mostest, a friend, a church member, but also the behind the scenes lady. We were gonna welcome Nthangwanika. Yeah. Awesome. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
I should say welcome to this side of the pod.
This side of the camera.
Yeah.
This side of the podcast.
Yeah. How does it feel to sit in?
It's interesting, nerve-wracking, but I'm excited. I mean, I'm happy to get into it.
Yes. I love that. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And so we'll just dive right into it. And we're looking at the theme of joy. Gary preached on joy from Philippians 4, verse 4 to 9. And so I want to start us off with, what does joy kind of mean to you? And like, what is the relationship you have with joy?
So joy means to me a promise. I used to think it's an emotion, a feeling, but I've come to learn that despite whatever circumstances might be going on, take today's episode, for example,
Yes.
Able to just posture myself back towards God and the joy that I experience being in relationship with him. But I've had a very up and down, inconsistent relationship with joy. I think being the type of person that I am, an entrepreneur, a leader, I always feel that nothing is complete and I can't experience joy until completion.
Yeah.
So it's been one of those things that I constantly have to turn back around and bring myself down into that feeling of joy. But yeah, I mean, I'm learning and I'm growing through that.
Yeah. I actually like that phrase of that, thinking about, like, you have to feel joy because something is complete. I think about myself of like my own relationship with joy, also quite rocky.
Yes.
I think over the years, and especially because I struggle with anxiety heavily. So, which means if I'm going to say I have joy, I want to feel it. Like, I cannot be stressed in anxiety and be saying, I have joy. It's like, it's a weird thing to be like, oh, but you're to have joy always, or like the way Paul says it in the passage of rejoice always. And again, I say rejoice, and I'm like, but I struggle with anxiety. Like medically, I am anxious, And so it's like I guess that thing of being like, hey, like, I don't think I have to wait for a feeling for it to be joyful, but then the focus going back to Jesus, just like you said, then that kind of like helps the situation or brings joy to the situation. But then thinking of or reflecting within kind of like the Advent series, and Advent is basically a time of waiting, right? We wait a lot. Like for the Israelites past, it was them waiting for the Savior, the Messiah.
Yes.
For us, it's mostly waiting for his second coming. So now I wanted to know of like, what's your experience of joy in a period of waiting?
Waiting is tough. I think for me, being patient has been one of the biggest challenges I've had growing up, because I'm the type of person who feels that they can do everything on their own. So now in group settings or community settings where I now have to wait for certain things to happen, but also being the type of person who imagined what their life would look like at this time, to be in a waiting season still for certain things in my life to happen to me, I think it's really helped me slow down. Like Advent helps you just slow down.
Yeah.
And then you're able to then pay attention to everything that you've been carrying. Because when you're on the move and everything is happening and you're not waiting for everything, you're making things happen, you feel like you're in control.
Yeah.
And that self-reliance takes front stage. So I think the lack of patience created like an idol in my self-reliance.
Yeah.
And I think Advent has helped me to slow down and kind of reflect on like, okay, what am I carrying? Is this too heavy? Do I want to put it down? Do I want to focus on bringing joy into this moment, even though I'm waiting for something that hasn't happened yet? And I think for me, that's really how Advent has helped me just kind of circle back to like slow down, reflect, and also look at the God in the details of what's happening in my life, and to see the goodness in that, the faithfulness of that in Him.
Yeah, I like that phrase of like the God in the details. I think the thing that I've been challenged most was this particular week. I was watching a Bible Project. I don't know if you know it.
Yes.
So I was watching a video on Bible Project where they were describing the book of Ruth, right? Of looking at the entire book, and one of the things that struck me was he talked about, in the entire book there is no mention of kind of like God specifically said this to this one or whatnot. It's literally just about the life of Ruth and Naomi as they walk through this whole thing, and then Boaz comes in the picture and all of that, but like there is no heavy mention of like either God spoke a word or God did this extraordinary thing. It's literally like people are just living the mundane every day. But then you see how God kind of orchestrates the mundane. And I think I've been very fascinated this particular week with being like, like God is in everyday details, isn't even in the mundane. And so I love that you mentioned that of like, God being in the details. And I think sometimes, our joy is taken away because we're not seeing or paying attention to how God is dealing with us within the mundane.
Definitely.
And so I wonder kind of like, what are some of your own practices of joy, like to find joy within your everyday life?
That's a tough question, because I think when I think about my everyday life and being the type of person who, quote unquote, makes things happen, not just for me, but even for other people at work and in whatever circumstances that I'm in, I think I like to say that this joy belongs to this person and that person. And, this is a good thing that happened for my client, but then, my joy is coming later on. So I've had to really root myself in the word. Like, what is God saying about these things that are happening in my life, or this situation that I'm facing, to really come back and draw myself, back to the drawing board to say, okay, if this is happening, there's still joy in that. No fruit on the vine, there's still joy in that. Like, find the joy in all those things. So I think prayer for me also really helps, just to hear God's voice. Because I think sometimes, let's say like miracles, the way people react and are so joyous when there's a miracle, that's God working in like a short amount of time. But I should be able to see God working even over the past 26 years of my life. So can I sit and reflect on that moment and still see His heart in that, His hand in that, and then be able to feel joy even regardless of whatever I'm going through or whatever I'm feeling. So I think prayer, being in the Word, those are some of the things that have helped me. And just also being, having a posture of gratitude. I think we struggle with gratitude in our day and age. There's a lot of comparisons, etc. And like, for you to sit and look at your life and be like, this is good. This is good. I love my life. To get to that point, it's also taken me time, but it's something I've actively practiced by keeping a journal and being able to go back and to read an entry from a year ago and be shocked to see God brought me through that. It was so big at the time I was writing it, but now it's like a very small, tiny, minuscule thing. So I think that those are some of the practices that I try to keep up.
I'm going to say yay to girls that journal, because I love to find other people that love to journal. I have a friend who just kind of doesn't understand. I remember the first time she asked me, what do you write in all of these things? And I was like, well, my brain works extra hard, so I kind of have to write things down to
spew it somewhere.
Exactly. But I think, like you're saying, it's like, it's very helpful, because again, it's the going back and the remembering of like, hey, God brought me through that. So I can be joyful now because I know He's the same God who can, kind of bring me out of all of this again. So I think that's like a very important thing of like, we forget to remember. We forget to remember of like the goodness of God, of the things that He has actually done in like the everyday. And in the past. And it's like, well, you are where you are because it's probably an answered prayer of where you are at. But then it's always like, oh, I'm only thinking about the pain of now or the unanswered prayer of now,
The
and
expectations.
exactly the expectation of the now. But then you forget that, like you're saying, of like, God doesn't just work in a short span of time. There's like,
He's always
he's always working. So which
Yes.
means there's somewhere where he started, and so that thing is continuously going. So I love that aspect of the remembering itself, because I think that's a trouble. Like, I think as humans we forget a lot, and like I like to say, it's the Israelites also had a remembering problem. I remember my friend used to say of like, Theo, the word for God to the Israelites was remember to remember to remember, and it's like, that's what you need to remember,
Yes.
to remember to remember to
We
remember.
have short-term memories.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
it's like, how are you complaining when God just did something before?
Yeah.
How are you building a golden calf when God just did
All Moses did was go up the
something?
mountain, and it's like, oh no, where is God? We need another.
Bro, like, calm down a bit, okay? Calm down a bit and reflect that God has been here, so, and He's still with you
Yeah.
all throughout the thing. But I also feel like this is a good conversation segue into kind of like the next question that I had, which is kind of from the sermon on Sunday. Gary said something that has kind of stayed with me, and he said, sometimes the things we seek to give us joy only steal it from us and distract us from Christ. And so I wonder, what do you think, first of all, let's start with like the capital C church. What do you think are some of the things that have distracted us, that we've looked for joy in, but then end up distracting us from seeing Jesus or God within that?
I think the most obvious thing that comes to mind is the numbers. Like, people want big churches, big stages,
Yes.
big celebrations,
Yeah.
and then it's like, yes, there's joy in this place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yes, that's the church. This church is on fire right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
So we're chasing those metrics. And also, I think there's the chasing of creating the moment. So you want to be the one in charge of,
Yeah.
creating the joy instead of stepping into the joy. So I think the church is really focusing on things like that now. And of course, there's, prosperity preaching and,
Yeah.
that rhetoric that's going around of like, no, we need to get there today. Success
Yeah.
is just around the corner. And like, your joy is coming when you have 50 million in
Yeah.
your account. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, good for you, but show us the part of scripture that says
Exactly.
that. But so I think those are some of the things where we're getting it wrong in the
Yeah.
church, where we're chasing these metrics, these numbers, these things that we can show to others, but God sees the heart, and heaven cares about every single soul.
Yes.
So one soul, how are we celebrating that? How
Yeah.
joyous are we when that happens? So I think those are some of the things that we really need to come back to
Yeah.
and introspect as a church, to look at those things and those wins and see that as the major ultimate achievement of what we're doing.
Yeah. No, that really speaks to me as a person who works in the church, because I think it's just reminded me of when we first started Flood Mzuzu, one of our probably like third, fourth Sunday or something. There was a Sunday that everything went wrong. Like Pastor Daddy can
In the
like
back, he's like, I remember that Sunday.
everything went absolutely wrong. Like anything you could think of went awful. And I remember it was like 10 minutes before we're supposed to start. The projector is not projecting. We were supposed to play. It ended up being a karaoke Sunday because our worship team was not. Yeah!
Just you remembering it is like short-circuiting your brain right now.
But like our team tried the best they could, but at the time it was just not working out. So it turned into karaoke Sunday, but unfortunately the audio wasn't coming out properly. So the lyrics on the screen were off with the audio. Pastor Daddy and I had to like do a thing where I'm playing the lyrics on the screen and he's playing the audio, and we had to do a 1, 2, 3, go.
Look at how you're laughing right now. You see?
It was a moment. But I always remember that Sunday, it ended and I just cried. Like literally as people were walking out in church, I just stopped there and cried, because it was just like, God, is this what you called me into?
Like,
To,
I can't do this.
This struggle? No, it can't be.
Undo it.
Bro, undo it, because it doesn't work. Like, what do you mean? This is the thing. But I think the thing I remember the most out of that entire ordeal was there was one guy who it was his first Sunday at Flood that day where everything went wrong. And on the Monday, he texted me and said, I had such a beautiful experience. You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a great job where? But then it also makes me think of like, I think like you're saying of like chasing the moment, chasing the metrics, chasing the, we have a perfect, flow of things. That day it's almost like God went like, bruh, it's not up to you.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not your church.
it's not your church. Like, I'm the one who's like within the souls of these people.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's like where you find the joy of like God actually doing things in the lives of people rather than did Sunday go
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that day, like that message lingers in my mind all the time of just like the Sunday where everything went wrong.
Yeah.
This guy met God
Imagine.
in the midst of all of that chaos. I cried because things went off, but at the same time,
Someone
it's
still
like
experienced
exactly.
God in that place.
And I was like, what would have been different if we all in that moment looked to God instead of trying to so much to be like, oh, there's so much chaos here and
Posture towards
whatnot.
perfection.
Exactly. And it's like our joy was stolen because we
Yeah.
were chasing that
A
moment.
certain particular standard.
Exactly. We were chasing perfection. And it's like, it's not bad for you to want to improve, to want excellence. And like, there's a lot we learned from that now we're like, oh, we know how to do this better.
Yes.
However, it's like, you can still have joy in the chaos if you posture your heart right. And I think that's like a very important one.
Yeah.
But then now I also wonder now personally, what are some things that have distracted you from Jesus because you looked for joy in them?
Comparison, number one. I mean, I just turned 26 last month.
Heyo!
Yes. So I just turned 26 and, I was just, taking stock of like, okay, 26 now. What do I want to do with my life? Where is life right now?
Yeah.
And you look around and when I try to compare myself to my peers or like what they've been able to achieve and the degrees and all these things and you're like, really?
Yeah.
This you? And it's like, okay, comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah.
That is 100% true. And every time you try to compare your past season to your current season or your life to somebody else's life, I think you rob yourself of joy.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
thing in my personal life that's really robbed me of joy is grief. I think I had a really long season of despair.
Yeah.
Grief was just clutching me, like it had engulfed me completely. And I think I couldn't see a way out of that season for a very long time. And I think even celebrating my birthday, by the way, a very huge achievement for me.
Yeah.
Because I shared my birthday with someone who passed on and it became this thing of like,
Yeah.
I can't be happy on this day because then I think about that person and I'm grieving at the same time. And then it's like, okay, I need to intentionally step into the joy that I want to experience. So I had to overcome grief and step into joy in that season. So I think failure as well. Yeah. Every time I fail,
Yeah.
I short circuit, just like you.
Yes.
And then I also
Yes.
have the anxiety thing where I try to fail before I've actually failed.
Yes.
So I'm anticipating failure. It's robbing me of joy in the
Yeah.
process. And then upon completion, if I do fail, I can't even pick out the lesson as quickly as I should.
Yes.
Because I'm so fixated on the fact that I failed. So I think those three circumstances for me have really robbed me of joy in particular certain seasons. So I think trying to overcome those things is now where I pivot and I'm able to see, okay, I can still have joy even though I failed.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm grieving, but death is not the end. And then also being able to just, look at my life and know that God is working on my own timeline, that He's outside of time.
Yeah.
I should trust Him more than I can trust whatever I think is the best thing for me at this time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I love that. The comparison thing hits me quite a lot. I think I've had like multiple conversations with friends where it's like, comparison, man. I think it's always that thing of like sometimes like a friend achieves something and it's not that you're not happy for them, but there's always like a lingering, oh, but you're behind and you should you should be somewhere or you should be this. And I think a lot of the times it's again the thief of joy is like you have to constantly remember, hey, like you're saying, I love that of like God is outside of time, so you can trust Him to work within the time that you have. Right? And then, bruh, sometimes you want to rush God, like, do you see what's happening? Like, are you?
like, can you even handle that thing you're asking for?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but trusting that. And I think one of the things for me has been perfection of like, again, I think part of my anxiety feeds that perfectionism. And so it's like, it's not great unless it's perfect.
Yeah.
If one thing is out of, kind of,
any loose screws.
yeah,
big
which is
problem.
why I would cry after the end of a service because I felt like things have gone
You were
wrong.
responsible.
Bro, I was like, and I know I say this often and people laugh at this, but I'm like, it's a reality and part of my struggle with perfectionism of since 2016, there hasn't been a SALT conference that I haven't cried at or cried before the SALT conference happens. And again, it's the perfectionism in me of like, it's one thing out of screw, but for me, oh, everything's gone off. Oh, Lord, we're not gonna, whatnot. And then I end up going through the whole thing just anxious and no joy and whatnot. And I'm like, sure, hindsight is 2020 and that's great. But like, it would also be nice for me to calm down, slow it down and be like, in this moment, it's not perfect, but God is working in the imperfection.
Yeah,
right?
I've come to understand that like understanding is a luxury when it comes to being in the process of something and things are going wrong and like you're trying to micromanage everything and make it work, and then you're like, you know what, I'm not gonna understand why things are going wrong the way that they are, despite the fact that I planned everything to a T. I don't know what the lesson is. Sorry. I don't know what the lesson is.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to understand that God promised me peace. So I need to come back to like settings and just accept that I'm not gonna get this 2020. Maybe even then I won't get it. So am I able to still move on from what is going on in my surroundings and fix my eyes on Jesus and move forward? So I think for next year I'm challenging you not to cry. I think you can do it. I think you can do it.
I think I can do it.
Yes, Jesus will help you.
Yes, amen to that. Amen to that. I think I also love that. I feel like a theme I've seen throughout as we've been doing Advent, from like the first week we did hope and the second week we did peace, and then now we're doing joy and we'll be looking at love next week. But like throughout this entire process, I think the one thing that's felt true is if you don't fix your eyes on Jesus, there's no hope, there's no peace, there's no joy.
Yeah.
Right? Like those things are absent outside of fixing your eyes on Jesus. And so it's like a theme that's, gone on, and it's like, okay, I think now part of that is like you're saying of like the perfectionism of me is being like, hey, when I'm struggling with perfectionism, it's because my eyes are on Theo and what she's capable of doing. But if my eyes are on Jesus, then within the imperfection, I will be content and joyful.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not my work that makes it done, like that, changes hearts.
Yes.
It's God's work that changes the hearts. I'm just there to give what I can, right? And I'm a limited human being.
Yeah.
And God has worked through the limits that I have.
Exactly.
And yet, things are still going. So it's like, again, fixing our eyes on Jesus rather than on ourselves or on what's happening. And so like, another thing that I want to go now to the passage of Philippians 4 verse 4 to 9. In verse 8, he talks a lot about like, Paul says, whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, think on these things. And I kind of wonder how you've seen in your own life of how certain thought processes kind of hinder that joy.
Overthinking? Yeah.
Hey, overthinkers, gather here.
Start a group chat. But yeah, overthinking definitely has hindered my joy in many, many seasons. I think there are some things that you come to regret when you think back to how like you were not present in a particular moment because you're overthinking a certain situation or whatever. And I'm a socially not awkward person, but just social gatherings can somehow rub me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I attended a friend's wedding earlier this year, and someone rubbed me off the wrong way, and I was just like in a bad mood the rest of her wedding. And it's something to this day that when I think about it, I'm like, why was I in a bad mood the rest of the wedding? Like, it was not that serious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I could have just brushed it off and moved on and been in that moment and experienced joy in that moment. So overthinking has hijacked my mind in many circumstances. I think also just being the type of person who would say, okay, yes, God is in this situation, but Nta has to do her part.
Yeah.
Nta has to do her part. Otherwise, things are going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And the result that I want is not going to come to pass. But the Bible says, even when we're faithless, God is faithful because he cannot deny himself.
Yeah.
So who am I to then think that I'm in charge? I've been given something to do.
Yeah.
Like, here, Nta, hold this.
Yeah.
If you drop it, everything is going to be a mess. You will not experience joy and all these things. So I think for me, it's really been about, rewiring those strongholds that are in my mind to say, okay, yes, you're coming from the background of like, you're the doer and you need to get things done. And like, if things don't happen, that means you're a failure. And until this thing happens, you can't celebrate whatever is going on. So I think just backtracking to say, don't see things from like God's view is God's view. That's the aerial view of seeing every single detail and seeing how things play out. But I should see things from my point of view of like, oh, I woke up today and I made it to work on time. Great.
Yeah.
Celebrate that. Find joy in that. And I think I've had to really minimize my worldview to like me, my people, the things I'm concerned about, and to find joy in those things instead of being the be-all and carry everything and I can do it and like just settle into like, seeing God as my father. Like it's taken me a really long time to come to that realization that God is my father and I'm a daughter in this relationship. So I think, that's something I've really had to rewire in my mind of like seeing God as my father.
Yeah. I love that because I think I've also been like, I think heavily going through the process again of like me being a daughter in, like my relationship with God is he's father, I'm daughter. And so like, I think about it often of like, kids don't worry about like a lot of the things that, like, it's very rare to find a child that's like seated and worried, like, I don't know what we'll eat tomorrow. Like, they're focused on like, hey, I've got a parent in this house and they're going to make it happen. They're going to do this. Kids have a way of asking ridiculous things out of people. I remember my niece one time, I used to stay with my sister and I remember my niece would always ask for things. Like every time I'm going to work, it's like, oh, when you're coming back, bring me this. And like, I remember one day I looked at her and I was like, how much money do you think I make?
She's not thinking about that.
And but like always it makes me think of that of like, she was very secure in like, my aunt will make it happen.
Yes.
I know my aunt can do certain things and all of that. And it's like, where's the trust in God to actually do things? I need to be a child with him, So then I find my joy because I'm looking towards my dad. Again, it's not like I can do things. It's he can do things. He can make it happen. Exactly. So then when he chooses to use me, it's because we're working alongside each other and he's still in the process. He's not like, here's the job, go do it. When you fail, but it's like, no, he's with us in that particular situation and he's with us in the mission that he sends us on. And so I can find my joy in being a child in the kingdom and recognizing that God is father. He is actual dad, and so just, again, I guess it goes back to the fixing our eyes on him. Right back there.
Solves every problem.
Hey.
Seems easy enough. And
bro.
Yet, here we are.
The day to day. But anyway, we're going to end on a very lighter note. And I want to know what's something that's like mundane but is bringing you joy.
Mundane but bringing me joy in this podcast. Yeah.
Hey, yo.
Yeah. This podcast, I think for me, like, being on this side of the camera, not my strength. But when I had spoken to Pastor Dali about it, I think I was thinking more of that one soul, that one person who can't attend Flood Mzuzu, but wishes that they could.
Here,
and I think I saw how much I had grown in my own faith by being connected to you guys and speaking to you guys. And I'm like, what if people could see these conversations that we're having with you and how we're growing through those conversations and putting that out there. And though, people will be like, podcast, yeah, my views steady.
Bruh, yeah, kawan like. Kawan like in the Pastor Dali.
Wow, and Theo Dali, Frema, you're liking the same thing yourselves. It's like, really? But no, and like, I've just been able to see how God uses anything, regardless of the scale of it all.
Yeah.
And I think it's really brought me closer to Him in a very special way. So that's one thing that's really bringing me joy in this season. You know, coming here, trying to figure out all the kinks. Hey, the sound today is doing this, but still, the episode is gonna come out. People are watching this right now because there's joy in that mundane task of like connect this here and do that, and then we're seated here, and this is happening, and someone will hear something that helps them. So yeah, definitely this podcast.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
And thank you for your contribution to this podcast, for making, if you don't know, Nta is one of the, this is like the, yes, but like this is a receive your flowers. We celebrate Nta because, you know, this podcast, again, you're one of the people that's pushed it forward and helped it become what it's become. So we thank you for saying yes to God and being like, you know, let's
if
do
you
this.
Want me to do this? Let's do that.
Let's do this. So we do appreciate you so much. But also, I've loved having this conversation with you.
This was fun. We need a part two. Yeah?
See? Hey, look at God, because this girl do not want to be in front of the camera, but like, look at God.
Are you sure? No, but I found the joy in recording this. So, you know, it was fun.
I love that. But you at home, thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of this podcast. I do hope that you're going to tune in again soon. But we here are celebrating Christmas. We're excited about Christmas. Me especially. I am very all things Christmas.
Jingle
so
bells.
It's 7 days to Christmas. Merry Christmas
Merry
from
Christmas,
us.
guys.
Yeah.
Flood Mzuzu wishes you great holidays.
For sure. So we love that you've been here with us, and this would be our final podcast for this year, this season, actually, yeah. So we will come back soon, but for our, what we're calling our first season of the podcast, we end today, and we're ending it on a high note with some joy, yeah. So we hope that this Christmas season brings you some joy, even though there's chaos in your life, even though there's uncertainty, even though you're not sure what 2026 looks like. It can be a little scary when you're coming close to the end of the year and trying to plan through the next year, but I hope you find God in the details of planning through everything, and that you fix your eyes on Jesus and find your joy there. And for me and the entire crew here at the Floodlight Podcast, wow, words, Floodlight Podcast, we say thank you for watching. Grace and peace. See you soon.
Have it.
Hey, you waiting for that one.
Like me, I want to go say this.
Have
Have it.